Sergeant Prado always counted his tunnel rat team twice, once at the mouth going in, once coming out. He'd built the habit after a different entry 4 months earlier when the head count matched, but one man had been left underground for 20 minutes before anyone noticed. On the afternoon of March 14, 1968, in the Cu Chi sector of South Vietnam, he counted 4 men descending into the tunnel. 20 minutes later, coming back up into the heat and the smell of open air, he counted 5. He stood at the tunnel mouth and counted again. Still 5. He counted a third time, slowly, pointing at each man. 5. He had gone in with 4 soldiers from the 1st Infantry Division and come out with 5, and the number would not change no matter how carefully he ran it. Specialist David Kirsch was one of the 4. He kept a diary he was not supposed to keep, a green memo book inside his boot, started because he'd grown up watching his father write things down and never shed the habit. After March 14th, he was glad he had it. For a long time afterward, he was also sorry. The Cu Chi tunnels ran for 250 kilometers beneath the Iron Triangle, dug by hand over 20 years, in some places 3 levels deep. The tunnel rat teams who went in after them were the smallest soldiers the unit had. The cutoff was roughly 5'5", 150 pounds, because anything larger did not fit in the lower shafts. They went in with a .45 caliber pistol and a flashlight. No radio. The tunnels swallowed signal. No backup plan because there was nowhere for backup to go. The flashlight was more important than the pistol. In the dark below 60 feet, a dead flashlight battery was a more immediate problem than enemy contact. Sergeant Walt Prado had been in 11 times. The first thing he always did, before descending and after returning, was count his team. He counted twice. He'd developed the habit after a confusion 4 months earlier on a different entry, when the head count at the surface had matched but one man had been left in the tunnel for 20 minutes before anyone noticed. Prado had vowed not to let that happen again. On March 14th, coming up, he counted 4 men, and then he counted again and got 5. And he stood at the tunnel mouth in the afternoon heat, counting a third time while the team waited. Corporal Ellis Tan, who had been on 8 entries and had the kind of composure underground that made people actively try to be assigned with him, was the last man out. He had been briefly separated from the group at a tunnel junction approximately 40 feet down, 30 seconds, perhaps 40. He had found the party again without difficulty. He had not reported the separation because 30 seconds in a branching tunnel was nothing worth writing up, and he had not seen anything unusual. He had thought he heard something moving in the left-hand branch when he reached the junction, but the tunnels amplified sound strangely, and he had long since stopped trusting what he heard in them. Private First Class Nicky Beckett, 21 years old, had been in twice before. He had a habit of touching the tunnel wall with his left hand as he moved. Not for guidance, he said, just for the contact. Something to orient him in the dark. He was from Cincinnati originally, quiet in the way some soldiers are quiet when they are paying very close attention to everything around them, and Prado had thought him a good tunnel rat for exactly that reason. When Prado's third count returned 5, both men at the tunnel mouth with Beckett's face and Beckett's dog tags and Beckett's unit designation on their shirts turned to look at him at the same moment. Neither of them said anything. They just looked. They took the statements separately as doctrine required. Prado made the decision himself before anyone with more authority arrived to make it for him. He put the 2 men in different positions and had them write out their accounts and then had them answer the same questions verbally, one at a time, with the other out of earshot. The written accounts were identical, not similar, identical, word for word, including 2 places where the handwriting hesitated and restarted in the same place. Prado had been a staff sergeant for 4 years, and he had processed a great deal of paperwork. He had never seen 2 statements that matched like that. The verbal questioning, conducted by Prado himself, using the standard set of identifying questions in the Army Field Debrief Protocol, produced the same answers until the 9th question, which was where Beckett had been born. One said Cleveland, one said Cincinnati. Both were correct in different ways. Beckett had been born in Cleveland and moved to Cincinnati at age 4. Both men knew this. The question was which one of them was answering from memory and which one was doing something else. Before the MP detail arrived, Kirsch sat with both men for about 20 minutes at the edge of the forward operating base perimeter. He was not an interrogator. He just sat with them because no one had told him not to, and he was watching. He wrote about this in his diary that night. He noted one thing that he did not include in his formal statement because he did not know how to write it up in a way that would be useful. Both men reached for their canteens at the same moment, without looking at each other or communicating in any way, in the middle of a silence when there had been no reason for either of them to drink. They unscrewed the caps simultaneously. They drank. They rescrewed the caps at the same time. Then they both put their hands in their laps and looked at different parts of the perimeter fence, as though nothing had happened. Kirsch had spent 18 months in the field. Soldiers in the field develop asynchronous habits. You do not drink when the man next to you drinks. You watch the opposite direction. You do not mirror your teammate because mirroring your teammate means you are both looking the same way. What he watched happen with the canteens did not fit any behavior he had learned or observed. He wrote, "I don't know which one is Beckett. I don't think that's the right question anymore." When the MP detail arrived from the forward operating base, both men were processed according to standard procedure. Photographs taken, statements recollected by an MP sergeant who had been told only that there was a head count discrepancy and who was visibly unsatisfied with that description. Dog tags checked against the unit roster. At some point during the processing, Kirsch could not say exactly when, because an intelligence officer had pulled him aside to answer a separate set of questions. One of the two Becketts was no longer present. He had not been logged through the base perimeter. The duty sergeant had not seen him leave. The MP record notes, in the flat language of military administration, that one subject was unaccounted for at the conclusion of processing. This is the only official acknowledgement that a fifth man had existed. Kirsch was the last person to see him. He had been standing at the tunnel entrance, the original entry point 60 feet away, looking down into it. When Kirsch glanced away to answer a question and looked back, he was gone. The tunnel entrance was empty. The ground around it was undisturbed. The Army's investigation ran 6 weeks and concluded with administrative confusion as the probable explanation for the head count discrepancy. Beckett, the original, the verified one, identified by his fingerprints, was returned to duty after psychiatric evaluation. He completed his tour. Kirsch does not know what happened to him after that. He stopped trying to find out. In the months after the incident, Kirsch went looking through the unit's after-action records for the Kuchi sector. He was a clerk as well as a tunnel rat. He had access to files that were not exactly his to access, and he used it. He found 3 other entries in the preceding 6 months where the head count on exit did not match the head count on entry. All 3 had been logged as administrative error. All 3 had been resolved in the paperwork by one man from the relevant team being listed as absent without leave or failing to report for duty within the following month. He did not take the files. He wrote the dates, team designations, and entry point coordinates into his diary and returned the after-action records to the filing system. He submitted no report. He told no officer what he had found. He was a specialist. He did what specialists do when they find something the chain of command has already decided is an administrative error. He kept it to himself. The Kuchi Tunnel Complex is open to visitors now. Tour buses, gift shops, a section of tunnel widened to accommodate Western tourists who want to understand what it felt like to go in. Several thousand people walk through it every year. The tunnel rats who survived and came home mostly don't visit. Prado never went back to Vietnam. Tan did once, in 1993, for reasons he described to a veterans group as personal. He did not elaborate on what he found. There is a section of the tunnel complex not included on the tour map. The guides describe it as structurally compromised, ground subsidence, unstable ceiling sections. This may be accurate. Nobody has verified it recently. Kirsch's diary covers 18 months of his tour and 3 years of follow-up research after he came home. The last section of it is a list: dates, unit designations, entry points, head count in, head count out. The Kuchi sector only, 1967 to 1970. He started the list in 1968 and added to it through the mid-1970s as records were declassified and he could access them. The final entry in the list is dated 1976. Below it, in different ink, a single sentence. I've stopped adding to this. Not because there's nothing to add. He did not write the total. The diary goes on for another 40 pages after that. Other things, other years, his daughter's school play, his father's illness, the kind of life a man builds around something he has decided not to look at directly. The total is implied by the length of the list. Kirsch knew the number. He decided it was not the kind of number you write down. Where history ends and our story begins, we will let you decide where the line falls.